Hello everyone. There are moments in life when we sit quietly and wonder if our presence truly matters. Some of us even ask ourselves, am I a burden? Am I just a waste of space? Let me remind you today with absolute clarity, you are not a waste. You are a creation with meaning, a spark of life placed here for a reason far greater than you might see right now. From the day we are born, we become a part of something special, our family. A family is more than a group of people living under one roof. It is a web of love, responsibility, and support. Sometimes we forget how deeply our existence shapes this web. Think about it. The smile you bring to a parent's face, the hope your progress gives to your siblings, the comfort your presence provides to those you care for. These moments may seem small to you, but they are priceless to the people who love you. Life's challenges often make us doubt our value. Failure in studies, loss of a job, or disagreements at home may push us to believe that we don't matter. But your worth is not defined by success or failure. Your value comes from simply being you, unique, irreplaceable, and capable of growth. When you start to see yourself as insignificant, you disconnect from your family's love. Yet your family's story is incomplete without you. Your laughter, your advice, your care, even your struggles, shape the family you belong to. Knowing your family means understanding not only their sacrifices but also their hopes. Many of us overlook the silent prayers of parents, the quiet support of siblings, or the patience of those who guide us. When we realize this, we see that we are a vital thread in their lives. Remember, comparing yourself to others will only blur the truth of your worth. You don't need to be someone else to matter. You matter as you are. And when you acknowledge your own importance, you give strength to your family too. So today, I ask you to reflect on 3 things. Recognize your value even in times of struggle. Cherish the love and guidance your family offers. Contribute to that circle of love, because family is not complete without you. No person is ever a waste. Sometimes all we need is to remember our place in the hearts of those who love us. Stand tall, believe in your worth, and never forget your family needs you and you are important. No one on this earth exists by accident. The very fact that you are breathing at this moment means you carry something unique inside you, something that no one else in the world can offer. Too often we measure our worth by what we achieve, how much we earn, or how others see us. But purpose is not about titles, fame, or wealth. It is about the silent, powerful impact you bring simply by being alive. Think about the way a small candle can light up a dark room. That candle doesn't question if it's big enough or bright enough. It just shines. In the same way, your presence carries a spark that illuminates someone else's life, sometimes without you even realizing it. Perhaps it's the way your younger sibling looks up to you, or how your words have once given a friend hope when they were ready to give up. These moments, though unseen or unspoken, are proof that you matter deeply. Too many people walk through life believing they are unimportant because they haven't reached a certain milestone or because others fail to recognize their worth. But the truth is, value isn't assigned by the world. It's something you were born with. Your life, your story, your voice, your choices, all of these together make you irreplaceable. Purpose doesn't always announce itself with grand success. Sometimes it appears in small, everyday ways, in the patience you show to a parent, in the encouragement you give to a sibling, or in the simple act of showing up for someone who feels alone. These are not small things. They are pieces of a bigger picture that only you can complete. And when you start to believe that you are a waste, you unknowingly begin to close the door on your own potential. You may stop reaching out, stop trying, and slowly distance yourself from the people who care for you. That's why it's so important to remind yourself that you were created with intention. No one else can live your story. No one else can fill your place in your family's life. Every person is born carrying invisible seeds, seeds of kindness, resilience, wisdom, and love. These seeds can grow into something beautiful, but only if you nurture them by believing in your purpose. When you recognize that you are more than your failures, more than your doubts, and more than your fears, you begin to awaken to the impact you're meant to have. You were never created to be a shadow in someone else's life. You are a light meant to guide and to connect. And in understanding this, you also begin to see how deeply your presence is tied to your family's strength and their sense of hope. Because when you rise into your purpose, so many people wake up every day carrying a silent burden inside their hearts. The feeling that they do not matter, that they are invisible, that their existence makes no difference. This feeling can grow quietly, fed by disappointments, by hurtful words from others, by failures that seem to overshadow every effort. It begins as a small whisper, "You're not good enough, you don't belong, you're just a waste." And if we let that whisper grow louder, it can become a belief. But here is the truth that we often forget. Feelings are not always facts. The way you feel about yourself in your lowest moments is often far from the truth of who you really are. Feeling unimportant is like standing in front of a dirty mirror. You think you're seeing yourself clearly, but all you're really seeing is the dust and smudges on the glass. Think about this. If you have ever helped a friend, even with a small act of kindness, if you've ever made your parents smile even once, if you've ever been missed by someone when you were not around, then you already carry importance that your feelings might be hiding from you. Feelings of worthlessness often grow because we compare ourselves to others. We look at someone else's achievements, their looks, their success, their social status, and we decide that we don't measure up. But what we fail to see is that every person we envy has their own struggles, doubts, and insecurities. We think they shine brighter, but in truth, they too have moments when they feel small. This false belief also grows in silence. We don't talk about it. We let it sit in our hearts like a heavy stone. And the more we stay silent, the more it convinces us that we are alone. But you are not alone. The people who truly care for you, your family, your friends, cannot know what you feel unless you let them in. Many times, the moment you share your feelings, you begin to see how deeply you are valued by those around you. There is also a powerful lesson here. The mind is like soil. Whatever you plant in it, whether it is the seed of hope or the seed of doubt, will grow. If you keep repeating to yourself that you are not important, that belief will spread like weeds and choke the truth. But if you begin to plant words of worth, reminders of your value, and memories of times when you mattered to someone, those seeds will grow into strength. And remember this, the world may not always applaud your efforts. Your importance is not always measured by applause or recognition. Sometimes your value shows in quiet, unseen ways. In the way your siblings look for you when they're afraid. In the way your family breathes easier knowing you are there. In the way your presence alone brings peace to a troubled home. Feeling unimportant often comes from focusing too much on what we think we lack instead of noticing the good that we already bring. The danger of this false belief is that it can make you pull back, hide away, and stop sharing your gifts. But you are not meant to disappear into the background of life. You are meant to step forward, to see your own worth even when the world seems to overlook it. To believe in the silent yet powerful impact you already have on your family and the people closest to you. Because when you begin to understand that this feeling is just a shadow, not the truth. Before the world knows your name, before any teacher praises your talents or any colleague appreciates your work, there is one place where your worth quietly begins to take shape: your family. It is in the early, simple moments of life that we first learn who we are. A child doesn't discover their value in a classroom or a workplace. They discover it in the arms that hold them when they cry, in the voices that cheer for their first steps, in the warmth of a home that accepts them even in their flaws. Family is not just the people related to you by blood. It is the circle that surrounds you with care, guidance, and love. Even if families are imperfect, and they often are, they are the first mirrors that reflect back our significance. When a child is encouraged, they begin to believe in themselves. When a teenager is guided with patience, they learn that their struggles don't make them less valuable. When an adult is supported through failures, they understand that their worth is not defined by success alone. Many people underestimate this truth. They think value comes from what society says, from how many followers they have online, from their grades, or from their job titles. But the deepest, most lasting recognition of one's worth often begins at home. Sometimes it is not spoken out loud. It's in the way a parent waits up late until you get home safely, in the way a sibling defends you when you're not around, in the way a grandparent silently prays for your future. These gestures are not small. They are quiet confirmations that your life has meaning. When we ignore or forget this, we start searching for validation in all the wrong places. We try to prove our value to strangers, to people who barely know our story, and we feel empty when their approval fades. But a family's recognition is different. It is not based on achievements or appearances. It is rooted in connection. It sees your worth in your laughter, your kindness, your presence, even your mistakes. Because family knows that you are more than your worst day. And yet, sometimes families struggle to express this recognition. Parents might be busy, siblings might be distracted, and we might misinterpret their silence as indifference. But beneath the surface, there is often an unspoken understanding of your importance. The challenge is to look deeper, to notice the sacrifices made for you, the guidance offered even through scolding words, the ways your family tries to hold you up when life pushes you down. Your family is the soil in which the seed of your self-worth is planted. When the roots are nourished by love, even when it's imperfect love, you grow stronger. When that recognition is absent or overlooked, the seed may struggle, but it is still there, waiting to grow. This is why knowing your family, their efforts, their struggles, their hopes for you, is so essential. It allows you to see that you have always mattered, even before you were aware of it. Too often, in moments of anger or disappointment, we think we are alone, that no one notices us, that our presence makes no difference. But the truth is, families feel each other's absence in ways that words cannot explain. A single person missing at the dinner table changes the atmosphere of the room. A single voice gone quiet leaves an emptiness that others cannot fill. Your worth to your family is not something you have to earn. It exists simply because you are a part of them. And when you begin to truly recognize that your value was first acknowledged at home, that the first witnesses to your worth were the people who saw you at your most vulnerable, you start to see yourself differently. You understand that even if the world overlooks you, there is a foundation that has always quietly affirmed your importance, because the recognition of your worth by your family is not about applause or public praise. Many people underestimate how much their mere presence shapes the atmosphere of their family. We often think influence comes only from great achievements, big speeches, or grand gestures. But in truth, the smallest presence, the sound of your footsteps coming home, your voice joining in conversation, your quiet support in difficult moments, can shift the emotions of an entire household. Think about a family gathering. When even one person is absent, the energy in the room feels different. The laughter is quieter, the conversation shorter, the warmth somehow less complete. This is not because the others stop caring or stop loving each other. It is because every single person brings a unique energy, a presence that cannot be replaced. Your presence is like a steady heartbeat in the family. When you are around, it provides comfort, familiarity, and balance. Parents feel encouraged when they see you striving to do better. Siblings feel less alone when they know you are there to share their burdens. Younger family members often draw courage just from watching you face your challenges. In ways you may never fully realize, your existence strengthens their resilience. This influence works in both directions. When you are joyful, your family often feels lighter. Your laughter becomes contagious, lifting the mood of the room. When you are troubled or withdrawn, the people who love you sense it too, even if you try to hide it. They worry, they try to reach out, they feel the weight of your silence. That is the power of your presence. It carries emotions that ripple through the hearts of those closest to you. Some people think, if I disappear, no one will notice. That thought is one of the most painful illusions. In reality, the absence of a single person can leave a gap that no one else can fill. It's not just about the role you play. Whether as a child, a sibling, a parent, or a friend, it's about the connection you bring. The small rituals, the inside jokes, the way you listen, the way you care. All of these build invisible threads that hold a family together. Your influence is not always seen in dramatic moments. Sometimes it's in quiet details. It's in the way your encouragement helps a sibling believe in themselves, in the way your calm words de-escalate an argument, in the way your simple "I'm here" brings relief to someone's heavy heart. These are not small things. They are the invisible strengths that families lean on in times of stress or uncertainty. Imagine a house where one wall is suddenly removed. The structure weakens even if the other walls remain standing. That's how it is in a family. Each member is like a pillar supporting the emotional foundation. If even one is missing, the others feel the strain. You might not see the weight you carry, but your presence often holds up more than you realize. And when you begin to recognize that you're being there, your voice, your energy, your willingness to show up actually strengthens the hearts of those you love. You start to understand why you are far from being a waste. You begin to see that your importance isn't tied to how perfect you are, but to the simple, irreplaceable way you influence the emotional balance of your home, because the strength of a family is not built by grand acts alone, but by the consistent presence of each person and the way you're present. In life, confidence is not something we are born holding in our hands. It is something that grows, like a flame that needs the right sparks to ignite and the right air to keep burning. And for most of us, the first sparks that light this flame come from the people closest to us, our family. From childhood onward, the way we see ourselves is often shaped by the way our family sees us. A simple word of encouragement from a parent, "I know you can do it," has the power to stay in a child's heart for years. A sibling's proud smile when you succeed in something small can be the push that makes you believe you're capable of even more. These moments may appear ordinary at the time, but they become the quiet building blocks of confidence that carry us through life's challenges. Confidence is not arrogance. It's the inner assurance that you have value and the ability to face what comes your way. Family plays a crucial role in nurturing this assurance. They remind you that you are more than your mistakes, that setbacks do not define your worth, and that even when you stumble, there are people ready to hold you steady. This steadying presence allows you to rise after failure, to try again after defeat, and to step forward when fear tells you to hold back. Without love and support, self-confidence often grows shaky, like a young tree in poor soil. A person may have talent, intelligence, or potential, but if they have never felt truly supported or accepted at home, their achievements may feel empty, their self-belief fragile. But even in difficult families, where love is sometimes unspoken or imperfect, there are often moments of care, small gestures of support that, when recognized, can help heal wounds and rebuild inner strength. Think about the difference it makes when someone you love believes in you. When you hear their words of trust, see their faith in your abilities, or feel their hand on your shoulder saying, "You can do this." It changes how you view yourself. You begin to push beyond your own doubts because you know that someone else sees a strength in you that you might not yet see in yourself. That is the quiet, often unseen power of a supportive family. Family love is not only expressed in cheerful words. Sometimes it comes as guidance, sometimes as discipline, sometimes as the quiet act of standing by you when the rest of the world steps back. These forms of love, though they may not always feel comforting in the moment, become the foundation on which confidence is built. Because knowing that you are not alone, that you have a place where you belong and people who believe in you, gives you courage to face challenges that would otherwise feel overwhelming. Support and love from family do not mean they shield you from every hardship. Instead, they give you the strength to face hardships with resilience. It is like having a safety net beneath you as you learn to walk a tightrope. You still have to balance, you still have to move forward on your own, but you move knowing that if you stumble, there is something to catch you, something to help you rise again. And as you grow older, you begin to understand that this confidence shaped by family is not just for you alone. It equips you to pass it forward. The support you once received allows you to become a source of encouragement for others. You realize that your own words of belief, your own gestures of love, can strengthen the hearts of siblings, children, or even friends who look to you for reassurance. This cycle of love and support within a family creates a deeper sense of unity. It teaches each person that their value is not dependent on perfection, but on persistence, kindness, and the willingness to believe in themselves and in each other. And when you recognize that so much of the courage you carry was first nurtured at home, you begin to look back with gratitude to see even the small sacrifices and simple words of care in a new light, because it is in those moments of supports, spoken and unspoken, that the roots of self-confidence take hold and keep growing, allowing you to stand taller, face your fears, and every single person on this earth faces challenges. Some face them early in life, some later, but no one escapes them. Challenges come in many forms: failures in school, disappointments in friendships, financial struggles, health problems, or emotional battles that no one else can see. And when we are in the middle of such struggles, it often feels as though the challenge itself defines us. We begin to think, I am my failure, I am my mistake, I am my weakness. But that is a lie our hardships try to convince us of. The truth is this: challenges do not take away your value. They do not erase your worth. They do not mean you are less important to your family or to the world. In fact, challenges often reveal a strength within you that you never knew existed. Imagine a mountain climber standing at the foot of a steep peak. The mountain is not there to tell the climber they are weak. It is there to prove to them how strong they can become. In the same way, life's challenges, as painful as they may be, are not proof of your insignificance. They are often the very moments in which your courage, resilience, and inner light begin to shine the brightest. We live in a world that celebrates success and hides struggle. People often share their victories, but keep their failures in the shadows. This makes many of us believe that if we struggle, we are somehow less worthy. But the reality is that even the strongest people you admire have faced trials that tested their spirit. They were not less important when they were struggling. In fact, their struggles became part of the reason they grew into the people they are. Challenges can feel like storms, loud, overwhelming, and sometimes destructive. They shake our confidence, cloud our vision, and make us question our worth. But like every storm, they eventually pass, and often they leave behind lessons and strengths that could not have been gained in any other way. The tree that stands through the storm grows deeper roots. The person who endures difficulty often discovers a depth of resilience that comforts and inspires others. It is important to understand that your importance is not measured by how smooth your path is, but by how you continue to walk it. Your worth is not reduced because you've stumbled, because you've fallen behind, or because you're still figuring things out. In fact, the courage it takes to keep going in the face of difficulty often makes your presence even more meaningful to those around you. Families, too, draw strength from witnessing how their loved ones handle challenges. When you push forward despite setbacks, you inspire others in your home to do the same. Your perseverance becomes a quiet example, a living reminder that hardship does not mean defeat. Sometimes, however, challenges make us want to withdraw. We hide our struggles out of shame, thinking we are burdening others. But the truth is, sharing your battles often deepens the bond within your family. It allows them to support you, to remind you that you are not alone, and to show you that your worth is not tied to having a perfect life. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall many times, but the parents do not stop believing in them. They encourage them to stand again. That same principle applies throughout life. Falling does not make you less valuable. Rising again, even shakily, proves your enduring significance. It's easy to believe that challenges make us smaller, but often they enlarge our capacity for empathy, for wisdom, for understanding others. They make us more human, more relatable, and often more able to guide and comfort those who come after us. When you start to see challenges as part of your journey, not as a verdict against your worth, you begin to carry yourself differently. You no longer view hardships as walls that block your path, but as steps that can lift you higher, shaping you into someone who not only survives but also strengthens others along the way. Because in the heart of every struggle lies an opportunity to rediscover your purpose, to prove to yourself and to those who love you that your importance cannot be reduced by the weight of your trials, and that each challenge you face. One of the quietest yet most destructive habits we can develop is comparing ourselves to others. It often starts so innocently, seeing someone else's achievement, someone else's appearance, someone else's life, and before we even realize it, that little spark of comparison begins to burn away our own sense of worth. We look at what they have and forget to see the value of what we already carry within us. In today's world, this comparison has become even more dangerous because it is everywhere. We open our phones and see carefully chosen pictures of success, edited smiles, moments of happiness that often hide 1,000 unseen struggles. We compare our real lives, with all their flaws and challenges, to the polished highlights of someone else's story. And then we start to believe that we are somehow less important, less worthy, less capable. But here is the truth. Comparison is like a thief that steals the joy of being who you are. Every person's journey is unique. No two paths are meant to be the same. The challenges you face, the lessons you learn, the love you give and receive, all of it is shaping you into someone that no one else can ever become. When you measure your worth against someone else's timeline, you ignore the beauty of your own unfolding story. Think of a garden. In one corner there may be tall sunflowers, in another small delicate roses, in yet another tiny wildflowers that bloom close to the ground. None of them competes with the other for beauty. None tries to become the other. Each grows in its own season, in its own way, and together they make the garden whole. In the same way, your worth is not diminished because someone else's bloom looks different or came earlier. When you constantly compare yourself to others, you begin to shrink in your own eyes. You focus on what you lack instead of recognizing what you contribute. And as your sense of self-worth weakens, so does your confidence, your motivation, and even your relationships. This is because comparison blinds you to your own strengths, the quiet talents, the hidden kindnesses, the resilience that others might actually admire in you. Families often feel the weight of this comparison, too. A child may think, my sibling is smarter than me, A parent might feel, "I am not as successful as my brother or sister." These thoughts, if left unchecked, can build walls of resentment and insecurity where there should be unity and support. What we often forget is that each member of a family holds a different kind of value. One may bring wisdom, another may bring energy, another may bring calm, another may bring humor. The strength of a family comes from this diversity, not from everyone being the same. Comparisons also make us overlook the quiet victories of our own journey. We forget the obstacles we've already overcome, the growth we've achieved, the way we've shown up for others in their time of need. We forget that worth is not measured by being the best at everything, but by being true to the person we are becoming. To free yourself from this trap, you must learn to look at others with admiration, but not with envy. Someone else's success does not mean your failure. Someone else's blessing does not cancel your potential. There is enough space in the world for every person's light to shine. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you begin to see your own path more clearly. You start to appreciate the progress you've made, even if it looks small compared to someone else's. You also start to value the unique role you play in your family, the way your presence and personality add something that no one else could offer in quite the same way. The damage done by comparison is not just to your confidence, but also to your sense of belonging. It makes you believe that you have to be like someone else in order to be worthy of love or respect. But your family, your true supporters, do not need you to be a copy of someone else. They need you to be you, the version that grows, learns, struggles, and still moves forward. As you release yourself from the habit of comparison, you begin to notice how much of your energy has been spent chasing shadows, how much peace you gain when you focus on your own growth, and how much stronger your self-worth becomes when it is no longer tied to someone else's achievements or timeline. And when you carry this realization into your daily life, you start to encourage others to do the same, reminding them that their value is not measured by comparison either, because in letting go of the need to measure yourself against someone else's journey, one of the most beautiful truths about family is that it is built like a living, breathing organism. Every member, no matter how young or old, plays a role that shapes the whole. Sometimes we forget this. We believe that only the parents matter because they provide, or that only the eldest sibling carries the weight of responsibility, or that the youngest has no influence because they are still learning. But the truth is far richer than that. Every single person in a family contributes to the heart and soul of the home. A child, even one who is too young to understand the world, brings a sense of innocence and hope. Their laughter can soften the hardest days. Their curiosity can bring fresh light into a weary household. And their trust reminds the older members of the family of the importance of care and gentleness. A parent, in turn, provides the guidance and stability that allows the whole family to feel safe enough to grow. Siblings often act as bridges, sometimes rivals, sometimes protectors, sometimes companions, but always adding depth to the experience of belonging. Think of a family like a tapestry. Each thread is different, some thick, some thin, some bright, some dark. But every thread is necessary to create the full picture. Remove one and the pattern becomes weaker, incomplete. The roles we play may change over time. Children grow into adults, siblings move away, parents age and sometimes lean on their children for support. But no role ever loses its importance. Too often, someone in the family begins to think they are the least important. A younger sibling may feel overlooked in the shadow of an elder's achievements. A parent may feel invisible as they quietly sacrifice their dreams for their children. A grandparent may feel they are just a memory in the background. Yet each of them holds a piece of the family's story that no one else can replace. Even the simple things, a child's questions at the dinner table, a sibling's protective words in a moment of crisis, a parent's late night advice, a grandparent's old story, are not random moments. They shape the values, beliefs, and emotional strength of the entire family. When you really look at it, you realize that the soul of a family is made up not of grand events, but of countless small contributions that come from everyone's role. Sometimes we think that to matter in a family, we must do something extraordinary, achieve a big success, provide for everyone, solve every problem. But often, what matters most is simply showing up, being present, being the person that others know they can count on. A younger sibling's laughter can lift the burden from tired parents. A parent's consistent care can give children the confidence to dream. A sibling's shared struggles can make another feel less alone. These are not small acts. They are the invisible threads that hold families together through both ordinary days and extraordinary challenges. It is also important to remember that these roles are not fixed in power or importance. They shift with time. The child who once needed protection may grow into the adult who protects. The parent who once provided guidance may one day need comfort and reassurance from their children. This exchange of support shows that every role is both a gift and a responsibility. Sometimes conflict in families arises because one member feels unseen or undervalued. They believe their role is too small to matter. But often it is only when someone steps away, when a voice is missing at the dinner table, when a room falls silent, that the family realizes just how much their presence contributed to the strength and spirit of the whole. When we begin to honor every role in the family, we stop ranking one above the other. We start to see the quiet dignity of each person's place. The way the youngest teaches us to hope, the way the elders remind us of where we come from, the way siblings teach us to share and forgive, the way parents teach us resilience. Each role, no matter how humble it may seem, is like a heartbeat that keeps the family alive. And as you recognize this truth, you start to understand that your own role, whatever it may be at this moment, is significant. You see that you don't need to be the loudest voice or the most celebrated achiever to be valuable. You realize that by simply being faithful to your role, by contributing in the ways that only you can, you strengthen the foundation of your family and help carry its story forward, because the meaning of family is not found in titles or positions, but in the way each person's presence. Before we ever step out into the world, before society begins to tell us who we are or who we should become, our first mirror is our family. The tone of a parent's voice, the way an elder sibling includes or excludes us, the quiet sacrifices made for our comfort, the pride in a grandparent's eyes. These subtle signals build the foundation of how we see ourselves. If a child grows up hearing that they are capable, loved, and important, those words become an inner strength. They carry it like a torch through every trial, every failure, every success. On the other hand, when a child is ignored, belittled, or treated as though their presence is a burden, they often carry an invisible wound, a doubt that echoes even in adulthood. This is why the family's role in shaping self-worth cannot be overstated. We often imagine self-confidence as something we build on our own, but in reality, the soil in which it first grows is the environment we are nurtured in. Think of it as the roots of a tree. What we absorb in those early years, respect, encouragement, belief, determines how strong and stable we can stand when the storms of life come. But there is also a deeper truth. Self-worth is not simply given, it is reflected. Families act as mirrors, not creators, of the inherent value that every person already carries. When a family honors each member's presence, it is not creating worth out of nothing. It is recognizing what was always there. And when that recognition is absent, the worth does not disappear, it simply waits for the day the person can see it themselves. Imagine a parent who notices a child's small act of kindness. A cup of water brought to a tired sibling, a chair offered to a visiting guest. That simple acknowledgement tells the child, you matter, what you do matters. Over time, this becomes an inner voice that says, I am capable of bringing good into the world. Think also about moments of conflict. In every family, there are arguments, misunderstandings, disappointments. Yet even in those times, the way we speak to each other has a lasting impact. A harsh word in anger can leave scars long after the memory of the argument has faded. Conversely, a moment of reconciliation, a parent admitting they were wrong, a sibling extending forgiveness, can become a lifelong reminder that one's value is not erased by mistakes. Many people struggle as adults not because they lacked talent or intelligence, but because they learned early to doubt their worth. They carry within them the echoes of being compared unfavorably to others, of being dismissed when they needed to be heard, of feeling unseen in the very place where they should have felt most secure. But when a family makes the effort to affirm each other, to listen without judgment, to encourage without conditions, it builds a sense of self, worth that cannot easily be shaken by the outside world. A young person who grows up hearing, we believe in you, walks into challenges with courage. A parent who feels appreciated at home carries a stronger heart into their work. An elder who feels respected by the younger ones carries dignity even in frailty. Self-worth, then, is not an abstract idea. It shows in the way we walk, speak, dream, and endure. And while the family may be the first to hold that mirror up to us, it is also true that each of us, in turn, holds a mirror for the others. A child can reflect worth back to a weary parent by showing gratitude for their sacrifices. A sibling can affirm a brother or sister's value by celebrating their smallest achievements. Even silence can sometimes affirm worth when it comes in the form of patient listening. There is also a quiet but powerful lesson here. When we start to see our own worth clearly, we begin to see the worth of others more clearly too. A family that learns to value each member genuinely creates an environment where self-worth becomes a shared strength, not a scarce resource. No one has to prove their value at the expense of another. The tragedy is that too many people do not realize how much their first sense of worth was shaped by those earliest interactions. They search for validation in friendships, careers, or social recognition, not realizing that the deepest part of their self-image was formed long before they entered the wider world. Recognizing this does not mean we are trapped by the past. It means we understand the roots of our struggles and can begin to heal, to nurture, and to grow new affirmations for ourselves and for those around us. And as we reflect on how our own self-worth was shaped by the family we were born into or raised by, we also gain insight into the kind of mirror we are holding up for others right now. Whether we are the older sibling whose words of encouragement can build confidence, or the parent whose listening ear can give a child the courage to try again, or even the younger member whose laughter and honesty can remind the adults that they too are valued simply for being. Every family has its own rhythm, like a song that is written not with notes on a page, but with voices, glances, gestures, and shared moments. And within that song, every person's presence is like a unique note. If even one note is missing, the melody changes. Sometimes it becomes incomplete. Sometimes it feels hollow in a way that no one can quite explain. We often underestimate the quiet power of simply being there. We think that in order to be valuable, we must do something spectacular, win awards, bring in wealth, or solve every problem. But the truth is far gentler and far more profound. Your presence itself carries meaning. The sound of your footsteps in the house, the tone of your laughter, the way you ask questions, the way you listen, the small habits that everyone has come to know, these are not trivial details. They create the emotional atmosphere of a home. Think of a family meal. There may be food on the table, but it is the presence of each member that makes it feel like a gathering rather than just eating. The way you ask, "How was your day?" Or the way you quietly smile when someone tells a story. Those tiny gestures are the threads that weave connection. When you're absent, there is not just an empty chair at the table, there is a silence that no one else quite fills. Sometimes we don't realize the depth of this truth until a loved one is away. Perhaps they've gone to study, to work in another city, or simply stepped out for a long period. The house still stands, the routines still go on, yet something feels incomplete. That incompleteness is the shape of their presence, the invisible but irreplaceable space they occupy in the hearts of their family. You are not just a face in family photos. You are part of the emotional architecture of your home. Your words, your moods, your humor, your kindness, even your mistakes, they all leave an imprint. When you walk into a room, the air shifts slightly because your presence changes the energy, whether you notice it or not. It is a profound realization that no one else can be you for your family. Others can help, others can support, but they cannot replicate the essence of your presence. A sibling may take on your chores while you are away. A parent may speak words of comfort, but the warmth, the energy, the particular way you bring yourself into the lives of those around you, that cannot be substituted. This is why it is often said that a person's absence reveals their true impact. While we are present, we sometimes assume we are just another voice in the room, just another hand at the table. We think they don't really notice me. But the moment we step away, the subtle void we leave behind becomes undeniable. A laugh may not ring as brightly, a conversation may not flow as freely, a routine may feel strangely off balance. That is the power of presence. And this presence is not defined by perfection. You do not have to be flawless to be valuable. Even in your struggles, your doubts, your ordinary routines, you contribute something that cannot be measured by achievements or compared with others. The way you care, even when you don't have the right words, the way you listen, even when you feel tired, the way you show up, even when you don't feel ready, all of these make your presence meaningful. A home is more than walls and a roof. It is a collection of presences. Each person's energy fills a part of that shared space. When one presence is missing, whether it is temporary or permanent, it is as if a light has dimmed in a particular corner of the home. The rest of the family feels it, sometimes in ways too subtle to describe but too real to ignore. The importance of your presence also becomes clear in moments of difficulty. A family facing a challenge, an illness, a loss, a financial setback draws strength not only from solutions, but from simply standing together. Sometimes what heals a wounded heart is not advice or resources, but the quiet comfort of knowing that the people we love are present, beside us, sharing the weight. Your presence gives others in your family a sense of belonging. It tells them you are not alone. It tells them there is someone here who sees you, and in return their presence does the same for you. This is the unseen exchange that holds a family together, not just shared responsibilities, but shared presence. And when you begin to realize this, you start to see that being present is not merely about being physically near. It is about being attentive, being emotionally available, being willing to listen, to comfort, to celebrate, to simply exist alongside others in their joys and struggles. Sometimes we underestimate how deeply our presence matters because we get caught up in our own insecurities. We may think, I don't contribute enough, or I am just in the way. But if we could hear the quiet thoughts of those who love us, we might discover that our very being, our voice, our humor, our habits fills a space in their hearts that they cannot imagine being empty. And this awareness opens a new understanding that our worth is not measured by grand achievements or how often we are praised, but by the irreplaceable space we occupy in the lives of others, a space that no one else, no matter how well intentioned, can step into in the same way, because the bond we create with our presence is uniquely our own. carrying a warmth and familiarity that shapes not just memories but the very feeling of what it means to be home. And as we continue to explore this truth, we begin to notice how every gesture, every word, every shared silence slowly builds. Every one of us carries within our hearts an invisible compass, a sense of direction that helps us choose the path to follow. For many, the earliest shaping of that compass comes from the way they were treated at home. The warmth of a father's encouragement, the gentleness of a mother's guidance, the quiet support of siblings. These things may seem ordinary, yet they often become the unseen foundation of courage, the reason we dare to take a step forward instead of shrinking back. When a child grows up hearing words like, "We believe in you," or "We are proud of you," something inside them begins to take root, a sense of worthiness. That sense does not vanish in the face of life's difficulties. Instead, it grows into the confidence to try new things, to take risks, to reach for opportunities that others might shy away from. In contrast, when a child grows up in an environment where their voice is dismissed, where their opinions are constantly belittled, they often carry an invisible burden of self-doubt, second-guessing every choice even when they are fully capable. The truth is that the love and respect we receive at home shape not just how we feel about ourselves, but also how we interact with the world. A person who knows they are loved approaches others with openness rather than defensiveness. A person who feels respected learns to respect themselves and in turn respects others. And when we respect ourselves, we are far less likely to compromise our values for approval or to follow paths that betray who we truly are. Think about the way a parent's simple words, "I trust your judgment," can transform a child's inner landscape. It tells them, "You are capable of thinking, of deciding, of choosing well." That trust becomes an inner voice that later whispers, in moments of doubt, "You can handle this. You are strong enough. You can decide wisely." Consider also the quiet power of being listened to at home. A young person who has been heard, not just lectured, but truly listened to, grows up with the understanding that their thoughts matter. This awareness becomes a guiding light as they move through friendships, careers, and even the challenges of adulthood. They do not feel lost because they learned early that their voice had value. Even respect shown in small, everyday ways has lasting effects. A sibling who refrains from mocking another's dreams, a parent who acknowledges an effort even if it falls short, a grandparent who asks for a child's opinion as if it truly matters. These moments, repeated over time, build not only confidence but also a moral compass. They teach us to value our own principles and to make decisions aligned with them. It is also important to understand that confidence is not arrogance. True confidence, nurtured by the soil of familial love and respect, is humble yet steady. It allows a person to admit mistakes without feeling worthless, to celebrate successes without feeling superior. It gives them the courage to stand up for what is right, even when it is difficult, and the wisdom to walk away from what would harm their integrity. There are countless stories, often quiet and unrecorded, of how this nurturing changes lives. A young woman who believed she could pursue her studies against all odds because her mother once said, "You are capable of great things." A young man who stayed away from destructive company because he remembered his father's respectful but firm words, "I trust you to choose better." A sibling who grew into a thoughtful leader because as a child, their opinions were valued during simple family decisions. Love and respect at home do not guarantee a life free of hardships, but they give a person the inner resources to face them with dignity. When the world criticizes or rejects them, they remember there is a place, a home, where they were first seen and accepted. That memory steadies them like a deep root holding a tree against the wind. In many families, unfortunately, love is present but unspoken. Respect is felt but not expressed. Parents sometimes believe their sacrifices are enough proof of love, while children long for words of affirmation. Siblings often care deeply for each other, but hide it behind teasing or distance. When these feelings remain unspoken, the nurturing power they hold may not reach the heart that needs it most. Imagine how different a person's journey might be if the love that already exists in their home were spoken more often. If respect were shown not only in great sacrifices but in everyday interactions, in a patient response to a mistake, in a kind acknowledgement of effort, in a simple expression of gratitude. This nurturing is not a one-time act, it is an ongoing exchange. As we grow older, we begin to realize that we, too, must give love and respect back to our family. A child's words of appreciation can encourage weary parents. A teenager's respectful listening can give hope to a struggling elder. A grown-up's gratitude can reassure their younger siblings that their presence mattered. When love and respect circulate freely within a family, they create an inner atmosphere that strengthens everyone who breathes it in. Confidence stops being a fragile thing that rises and falls with the world's opinions. It becomes a steady flame, sustained by memories of care and by the knowledge that one's worth was recognized from the start. And as you reflect on this, you begin to notice that the decisions you make, the paths you choose, the relationships you pursue, the way you respond to setbacks are often quietly guided by the early sense of worth you received at home. A sense that tells you that you are not defined by your failures, that you deserve to seek what is right and meaningful, that you can stand tall even when others doubt you. And as this realization deepens, you start to see how each gentle word, each respectful gesture, each moment of being believed in has become like a small star lighting your inner sky, guiding your steps forward in ways you may not have fully understood before. And you begin to wonder how many more lives could be shaped in this way if more families chose every day too. In every family, there are stories that are never fully told, feelings that are never fully expressed, sometimes hurts that remain unspoken for years. These wounds do not always come from great betrayals or dramatic conflicts. Often they come from small misunderstandings, from words left unsaid, from moments when someone felt unseen or unheard. These quiet wounds can linger beneath the surface, shaping the way family members relate to one another, creating distance where there could have been closeness, tension where there could have been trust. What is often overlooked is that sometimes the first step to healing these unspoken wounds begins with a simple yet powerful realization: the recognition of one's own importance. When you come to understand that you are not a burden, that your life carries weight and meaning, you begin to stand differently within your family. You no longer approach them as someone desperate for approval or validation, but as someone who knows they are a part of the whole, someone whose presence matters, whose feelings count, whose voice deserves to be heard. This shift in how you see yourself can ripple through your family like a quiet wave. It changes how you speak, how you listen, how you respond to moments of conflict. When you see yourself as significant, you begin to speak up, not to argue, but to communicate. You begin to listen not defensively, but with understanding. You begin to extend respect not as a demand, but as a natural part of connection. Think of the countless households where silence has become the default response to pain. A parent who hides their exhaustion because they believe their feelings are less important than providing for the family. A sibling who withdraws because they think no one notices or cares about their struggles. A child who acts out in anger because they do not know how to ask for comfort. These patterns often continue for years, until someone breaks the cycle, often the one who first realizes their own importance. By acknowledging your own worth, you also begin to acknowledge the worth of others. You start to see that beneath a parent's harsh words might be years of unexpressed worry or regret. You realize that a sibling's coldness might not be rejection but a shield for their own hidden pain. You recognize that what seemed like indifference from a family member might actually have been their quiet way of coping with their own burdens. Healing begins not when someone delivers a perfect apology, but when someone dares to see themselves and the others as valuable human beings not defined by their mistakes, not reduced to their flaws. And it often starts with one person choosing to step out of the shadows of self, doubt, and saying, in actions if not in words, I matter here and so do you. Recognizing your importance is not about becoming proud or demanding attention. It is about realizing that your existence holds meaning beyond what you do or achieve. It is about seeing yourself as a living bridge, someone who can connect hearts that have grown apart. Someone who can begin conversations that were once too difficult to have. Someone who can remind others that they are also seen and valued. Imagine the impact when a child who once felt invisible begins to show genuine kindness to a distant sibling, or when an adult child begins to approach aging parents with patience instead of resentment, or when a sibling who has long felt overlooked starts to express appreciation for the quiet sacrifices of others. These gestures, born from a renewed sense of self-worth, have the power to soften hardened hearts and to reopen doors that had quietly closed long ago. In many families, unspoken wounds persist because everyone waits for someone else to take the first step, for the parent to acknowledge the child's hurt, for the sibling to apologize for past words, for the elder to admit their mistakes. But sometimes the first step comes not from others, but from within yourself, from the moment you realize that your own importance is not dependent on their recognition. That realization frees you to approach them not with blame, but with the quiet strength to invite healing. This recognition also helps you set boundaries that are healthy rather than walls that shut others out. When you value yourself, you begin to communicate your needs with clarity instead of resentment. You begin to forgive not to excuse the wrong, but to release the grip of the past on your heart. You begin to see that your worth is not diminished by others' failures to understand it, and that insight often opens the way for them to finally see it too. There is a kind of silent power that comes when one member of a family begins to act from a place of self-awareness and self-respect. It is not loud or demanding, yet it shifts the dynamics around them. It creates space for honest conversations, for apologies to be spoken without fear of rejection, for gratitude to be expressed without feeling awkward. Over time, this shift can transform the atmosphere of a home. Tensions that once simmered unspoken begin to ease, not because problems vanished overnight, but because the people involved started to see one another not as obstacles or rivals, but as partners in a shared story, a story that can be mended and rewritten even after years of misunderstanding. And as this transformation takes root, you begin to realize that healing is rarely a single moment of dramatic change. More often, it is a series of small yet profound choices to speak gently instead of harshly, to listen before reacting, to reach out rather than retreat. These choices, grounded in the awareness of your own importance and the importance of those around you, become like drops of water that, over time, wear away the walls of silence and resentment that once seemed unbreakable. Recognizing your importance is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a deeper one, a journey where your newfound understanding of yourself enables you to extend patience to those who may still be struggling to see their own worth, where your presence becomes a reminder to others that reconciliation is possible, where your willingness to value yourself becomes a light that gently invites the entire family to step out of the shadows of old hurts and into the slow, fragile, but very real process of. There is a quiet but powerful truth that often goes unnoticed. The way we see ourselves has a direct influence on the way we connect with the people we love. A person who believes they have no worth often withdraws. They speak less, they share less, they stop reaching out because they imagine their presence adds little value. But when that same person begins to recognize their own significance, they naturally begin to reach outward. They offer warmth, they speak with more sincerity, they listen with more care. This subtle change does more to strengthen a family's bonds than any grand speech or dramatic gesture. Families at their heart are webs of relationships. The strands that keep this web strong are not material possessions or outward success, but the simple, ongoing acts of care and recognition, a phone call made without a reason, a meal shared at the end of a long day, a hand placed on a shoulder in quiet reassurance. Yet these strands often fray when someone in the family feels unseen or undervalued. When a person doubts their own worth, they often retreat, and when they retreat, the family's circle grows thinner in ways that may not be visible at first, but are deeply felt. It is in this sense that discovering your worth is not merely a personal awakening. It is an offering you give to those closest to you. By valuing yourself, you give others the chance to value you too. By standing in the truth of your importance, you begin to show up more fully in their lives, not as a shadow, not as a silent bystander, but as a living presence that enriches the shared story of the family. Think of a young person who has always felt overlooked, convinced that their ideas are too small to matter. Because of that belief, they hold back at family discussions, they avoid expressing affection, they let misunderstandings linger unaddressed. The distance grows not because others rejected them, but because they had silently rejected themselves. Then imagine the change when that same young person realizes, perhaps through a moment of kindness, that their voice carries meaning. They begin to speak a little more, they share their thoughts, they step into conversations with sincerity. Slowly, the tone of those conversations changes. The bonds that once felt fragile begin to grow stronger again. Recognizing your worth often means you no longer see love as something you must earn. You begin to understand that you deserve to be cared for and to care for others. This understanding makes it easier to forgive, to show patience, to contribute to harmony instead of conflict. A person who feels worthy of love does not cling to resentment as tightly, because they do not see every disagreement as a threat to their identity. And this change ripples outward. A son or daughter who begins to believe in their own worth may approach a strict parent with less fear and more openness. A sibling who has long felt competitive may start to see a brother or sister not as a rival, but as a companion on the same journey. Even an aging parent who has felt distant from their grown children may find themselves softening, willing to express affection more freely, when they sense that their own life is still valuable to the family. It is worth noticing how many family rifts are born not out of malice, but out of misunderstandings rooted in insecurity, the unspoken fears that one is not valued, not needed, not heard. Recognizing your worth allows you to step out of that shadow and to meet your family not as someone pleading for a place, but as someone ready to offer your presence as a gift. This often shifts the whole dynamic. When you value yourself, you also learn to honor the boundaries of others. You stop trying to win their affection by sacrificing your dignity, and you stop resenting them when they cannot meet all your needs. This balanced sense of worth creates space for healthier, deeper connections. Instead of relationships built on guilt or obligation, the family begins to rediscover relationships built on mutual respect and genuine care. The bonds of a family are rarely strengthened by big events alone. They are built moment by moment in the quiet consistency of how we show up for one another. The simple choice to sit together for a meal even when schedules are busy. The willingness to listen when someone is upset instead of brushing them aside. The decision to reach out to a sibling we haven't spoken to in a long time. These small acts gain new depth when they come from someone who truly believes they have something meaningful to give. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this transformation is that it often happens invisibly. A person does not announce, "I have found my worth." Instead, their actions begin to reflect it. They smile more easily. They reach out to help without waiting to be asked. They apologize without feeling humiliated. They accept apologies without holding on to old grievances. These small shifts, multiplied over days and years, strengthen the invisible threads that keep a family united. As you come to recognize your worth, you may also find yourself becoming more curious about the worth of others, wondering about their untold stories, the burdens they carry quietly, the dreams they still hold. This curiosity draws you closer to them, teaching you to look past old conflicts and to see the person beneath them. It opens the door to empathy, which in turn becomes another strand strengthening the family's bonds. And as this process unfolds, you begin to notice that your self-worth is not a solitary possession but a shared wellspring. The more you draw from it to give others kindness and understanding, the deeper it seems to grow within you. Your confidence becomes less about proving yourself and more about nurturing the connections that give all of you a sense of belonging. Over time, this recognition reshapes the way the whole family experiences togetherness. Home begins to feel less like a place you have to return to, and more like a living circle you want to help sustain. Disagreements may still arise as they do in every family, but they are faced with a willingness to resolve rather than to wound. Differences in personality or choices may remain, but they no longer threaten the foundation of connection, because that foundation has been strengthened by the shared understanding that each person has worth. And as this quiet but steady transformation continues, you begin to realize that by learning to see your own worth, you have also been giving your family a silent invitation, an invitation to remember their own worth, to look at one another with softer eyes, to lay down the burdens of old misunderstandings and to weave together, thread by thread, a bond that can hold strong even in seasons of difficulty, a bond that continues to deepen as you keep reaching, day by day, toward the still, unfolding possibility of comparison is one of the quietest but heaviest burdens we carry. It often begins without our noticing a glance at someone else's success, a remark from a relative, a story we hear about a friend's achievements. Suddenly, we start measuring our own worth with someone else's ruler. We forget that each of us was never meant to walk the same path. And yet, when we compare, we begin to feel as if we are behind, as if we are not enough, as if our place in the family is somehow smaller or less significant. In families, this tendency can take root in very subtle ways. A younger sibling might feel invisible in the shadow of an older sibling's achievements. A parent might quietly believe they have failed because they cannot provide what another household seems to offer. A son or daughter may feel unworthy because they have not met the expectations set by a cousin, a neighbor, a classmate. These unspoken comparisons begin to distort the way we see ourselves, making us feel like we are replaceable, as if anyone could take our place. But the truth is this: in the unique story of a family, every individual holds a role no one else can fill. You may share the same last name, the same house, even similar habits or talents, but the way you listen, the way you comfort, the way you see the world, the way you respond to joy or grief, these things are not copies of someone else. They are yours, and often these quiet, unseen qualities are what give a family its warmth and depth. When you stop comparing, you begin to end.